Hello, I am Chase Cumming, better known as C-Cum, and welcome to the first episode of Behind the Gains. This isn't always necessarily going to be a solo podcast. I'm hoping to get some other people on it at some point, but for now, it's just me. And sorry if you hear cars around in the mic. I don't even think you can, but you'll see it in the video version. I'm currently just sitting in my car doing this. So why am I doing this? Well, I would love to announce that I am going to, hopefully compete in a bodybuilding show in May of 2025, if you're watching this in the future, of May of 2025. I'm looking at the Emerald Cup in Bellevue, Washington, because I live in the sunny, beautiful state of Washington. That's an over-exaggeration. It can be nice and sunny, but I don't know if you're looking at the visual version right now, but it's rather snowy where I'm at. I won't disclose exactly where I'm at, but yes, it's a little chilly right now. But sorry also, I haven't done this in a while. Last time I did a Q&A type thing was last October or November time, I think. I think I had just hit like 5,000 followers on Instagram, which I know I'm subtly bragging right now. But, at that time, the best way to describe it, it was like I was high off of, or I guess it's like an adrenaline high, It was going up very quickly. I was being recognized quite a bit on campus because I'm a student at a college. I'll just say which one. I go to Gonzaga University. I'm graduating this May as well. It's going to be a lot going on in May. Let's just say that. But I was very overwhelmed at that time. I wasn't unhappy. I was overwhelmed, It went from like 200 followers on Instagram to, like 10,000 in like a month. Sorry if I'm saying like. I need to stop saying like. I need to stop saying like that. Little joke. Anyways, where was I going with this? Oh yeah, I was doing a lot of videos and all that stuff back then, but I've kind of been slacking, you could say. And why have I been slacking? Well, honestly, the stress got to me a little bit, and being an influencer wasn't really everything I'd hoped it would be. Not that I didn't have fun with it. In fact, I'm still an influencer. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm not. Everyone at my school refers to me as one as well. But, at the end of the day, being an influencer is not exactly what I had envisioned for myself, I always saw myself as more of just a creator. And, in a way, I consider bodybuilding like an art project, if that makes sense. Because that's the thing with bodybuilders and influencers. I'd say the difference is influencers are more about, trying to show off a certain, image, I guess. Never mind. I don't want to speak too much and make it sound like I'm dissing influencers. It's just not me. You know what I mean? And to me, finally deciding to compete in a bodybuilding show is my way of distancing myself from the bodybuilder aspect, Hold on, let me make sure my audio is still recording right now. Oh, yes, it is. My bad. I'll see if I can cut that part out. But to me, bodybuilding is... Okay, so why am I bodybuilding? Sorry, I've been rambling. I need to get into it. Why am I going to compete in a bodybuilding show? Because I feel like I have a lot of potential in bodybuilding, and it wasn't necessarily something I considered when I started lifting. I'm not going to sit here and do a whole breakdown of my entire life, but let's just say I played football when I was about 5 years old, and then, I was pretty big into endurance and running growing up, so I've always been like lean and in shape. And then when I started lifting pretty seriously sophomore year of high school, it was a lot of change that happened very quickly, and I discovered, I'm kind of good at putting on muscle, which is, it sounds braggy, but I'm also a 5'4" man. And in case you somehow are not aware, I'm a 5'4" man. So I feel like it's a little deserved, you got to count your blessings. Let's just say that. But, I finally feel like I have the confidence in myself to do it. You know, for a long time, when people expect you to do something, you can often end up psyching yourself out, if that makes sense. You know, I knew I was going to do it, but when I used to always just tell myself, "Oh, I'll do it in the future. Once I feel like I'm ready, I'll do it. Oh, I'm not ready now, but once I'm ready, you know." And you just keep putting it off, and I realized, "Oh my gosh, I am putting it off not because I feel like I technically could have been ready a year ago even, but the reason I kept putting it off is cuz I was scared to commit to it because, you know, I'm going to do it naturally, whether you believe that or not is your decision, but I want to do it naturally, and it's very hard to go far in the sport as a natural bodybuilder. So that's part of the reason I even decided to start being like an influencer. I always knew it was going to be the influencer arc or era, and then that would lead into bodybuilding. I just didn't think it would happen so fast. In a way, being an influencer to me, I thought that was going to take a while or a lot of time to build up to the point where I could have an audience of people. And even then, I still don't have that large of an audience. I think I have a decently sized audience, if that makes sense. But also, I think bodybuilding is my way of finding a new audience, if that makes sense, I think being an influencer will only get you so far, at least with my goals, I think finding a purpose in life, we're about to get deep for a second, but, I've always been a very purpose-driven person. I have spent a lot of time in my life purposely and not purposely alone. I'm not saying I've been lonely my whole life. I have a lot of people who I surround myself with and a lot of people who I enjoy being around. But, at the end of the day, especially lately, the last 6 months, I've really become more of a loner again, which, oh, Mr. Popular Loner over here. I know, it's cringe. But with bodybuilding, you have to kind of be boring, which sounds sad, but I honestly have really enjoyed the last 6 months, really calming down, cutting out my bad habits. I've been known to, have fun. Let's just say that. But I don't want to sit here and make it sound like I was going crazy, but, I think I made a whole video about this, actually. If you can go watch that one. It's called Bodybuilding Made Me Boring. But we're not going to talk too much about that. So why am I bodybuilding? Who am I? Sorry, that was abrupt. I feel like understanding who I am and the type of person I am will make it more understandable why bodybuilding works for me. I'm a very competitive person, and I've been just missing that competition aspect when I was in high school. And I mean, all growing up, I did lots of sports. I did wrestling as well, but football was my main thing. And then by the time I got to high school, that's what really kicked it into gear. This obsessive nature I have, that sounds kind of freaky. Like, what do you mean obsessive? But I do have a very obsessive personality, and I just love to get lost in what I do. And bodybuilding has been that lately, but in high school it was football and just working out in general. I discovered how much I was obsessed with it, and that doesn't necessarily equate to me enjoying it all the time. In fact, there's been times where I wanted to just quit because it was the same thing then that it was with bodybuilding, where I felt like I had to do it. And sometimes when you feel like you have to do something, you psych yourself out because you don't want to let everyone down, And for me, I put so much time into football, and then when it ended, I felt a little lost, And in a weird way, being like an influencer, or at least starting to post my progress online, was kind of my way of chasing after the next thing to, drive me. It was cringe. I know, like posting yourself online, or you're posting your body online, I should say. It definitely can be cringe, you're being very vulnerable. Let's just say that. And I was not the type of person, I mean, most people who knew me growing up probably didn't expect me to be like this, but there was a big moment in high school also where I basically became a bodybuilder for a quick moment. Maybe you know what? Let's get into a story time. This is actually probably the moment I realized, oh, wow, I want to be a bodybuilder. This is awesome. So to set the tone, or not to set the tone, set the story up, I was in it was a weird time in my life where I ended football, and it was my senior year of high school, and I'd pretty much spent all of December through, I'd want to say maybe April, just really locked away. I did community college for a couple of years, and this was also during that time, so I really wasn't seeing many people from my high school. Really, my only connection to anyone from the high school was through football, but because football wasn't going on, I basically vanished. But on this May day, it was not May Day, on this day in May, I don't know what flipped in my head, but I just remember I was finally living my life with a little excitement, you know? I was doing things, I was making new friends, and in a way I was finding this new level of confidence that I'd had periodically throughout my life, but I really wanted to embrace it now, you know? I just gone through this phase of being pretty insecure, bad skin, you know? I buzzed my head, which was a mistake, I will admit, but I think it was good that I did it. You know, it was like shedding who I used to be in a way. It was like metaphorical, but I don't know if that's the right word, actually. I don't know if it's metaphorical, but also sorry if I keep like never mind. I was going to say something, but you know what? I don't want to mention it right now. But I was going through a lot of change, and there was this hypnotist show. You guys ever seen these hypnotist shows where, you know, people go up on stage and they get hypnotized? You know, I'm doing quotation marks right now with my hands. If you're listening to the audio version, I genuinely don't even know who would be listening to the audio version right now. But I was the last one to get picked because everyone had been picked and they were like, we need one more. And my friends were like, Chase, you got to do it. You got to do it. And so I finally just raised my hand and they picked me. And it was I went to a fairly large high school in Washington. It was, of the rankings, it was the, you know, highest ranked student population wise. I think that's the best way to say it. You know, it was like one of the top most populated students. Never mind. It was a big high school. And there was quite a bit of people actually. And I got picked. And so I went up there. And the whole time I was kind of just putting on a show. I was kind of an entertainer in elementary school, and then middle school I really lost a lot of confidence. I lost some friends, and just, you know, things happen in middle school. You know, it's middle school. Come on. But so everyone knew me to be very quiet and timid for most of middle school throughout high school. But this night it was like I had the opportunity, you know, with the hypnotist environment to be like, oh, I can be whoever I want to be right now because I'm hypnotized, quote unquote. I do think maybe hypnotism is real, but I think what it did is it just put me in a state of relaxation, you know, suggestibility, where if they said something to me, it's like I could resist it, but why not go along with it? You know what I mean? And so the whole night I was putting on a show. I remember I had this like spy thing where they like tapped on me and they were like, whoever gets tapped on, you are a spy and you are in espionage and you're hiding. And I remember I got out of my chair and I did this crazy, like, I slid underneath the chair I was sitting in and I started like staring at the audience from behind the seats. And you know, I was putting on a show. I'm a showman. What can I say? That's why, okay, I'm not going to get ahead of myself. Never mind. I was about to say something, but that's a little too quick into the story. And so the whole night I'm just putting on a show, trying to be funny. And they basically ask, or they tell us, you are all bodybuilders. Not all of us, the boys. All the boys are bodybuilders, and you are at your show and you have to put on a show for the audience or something like that. And so I get up and all of us guys are, you know, posing off and flexing, but we're all obviously fully clothed. But I remember in this moment, you know what I said about like a state of suggestibility? When I looked out into the audience, I saw a bunch of faces I knew, but at the same time, I realized, yeah, I know all these people, but at the same time, they don't really know me, if that makes sense. You know, it's like I can be whoever I want right now in this moment. And I remember seeing all my friends, and all throughout high school, I had kind of reputation for, especially when my acne started getting bad, just some people thought I was juicing. Some people thought I was on gear because I put on like 40 pounds in 2 years of not pure muscle, but, you know, a good, decent amount of muscle. And I saw my brother and some other of my close friends, and a bunch of people were yelling at me to do it. And I just remember being in that moment like, am I going to regret not doing this? And I remember thinking, yeah, I'm going to regret not doing this because I will never have this opportunity again to, you know, show off everything I've been working for the last like 2+ years of lifting. So I just decided at first I was being resistant, and then all the guys standing next to me were hyping me up, and I took off my shirt, and you can see I go from being kind of timid about it, but the moment the shirt comes off, I just go crazy, and I'm just like, ah. Sorry if that's too loud for the audio listeners, but I just start doing a whole bodybuilding routine. It wasn't like I was trying to be like, you know, sexy about it, but I was just basically being a bodybuilder. I was doing all the poses I had been practicing. And keep in mind, at this point, from December till April is the first time I really considered being a bodybuilder. And now I'm basically on stage being a bodybuilder, and everyone's going crazy. No one expected it. That was the best part. Everyone knew I could have done it, but I don't think anyone actually expected me to do it, and that's why I did it, you know? Like now I don't even know if I would do it now, just because if you want to see my physique, I've posted it so many times online, so you can go check it out. But at this point, no one had ever actually seen it, really, you know, at all. I hadn't posted it I'd actually posted once on Instagram. I remember this. And I got a lot of love and respect for that. So I thought in this moment, this is the next step. I got to actually show it off in person. And I hadn't even worked out that day. I had gone to work. I did construction all day. And so I didn't even have a pump, which made it even better to me, because I was like, if people get hyped right now, like, oh, I didn't even work out today, so it's going to be awesome. So I do the whole routine, and then I go and sit back down. I put my shirt back on, and that was kind of that. And I don't even know what I expected to happen, but the next day I was at work, and in our big football group chat, I see an edit, and one of my now friends, but at the time I really didn't even know him, he made an edit of me on stage, like going crazy, and I'd seen a bunch of private stories and stuff of people posting it. Like everyone was filming it, you know, it was crazy, but this was an edit, and seeing myself in that edit, that was the first time I really felt like, oh my gosh, wow, I'm pretty cool. Sorry, this is very narcissistic, I know. This was a phase in my life. I'm not saying this is how I feel now, but it's important context to understand why I want to compete now, you know what I mean? This was my first time being a bodybuilder, and I loved it. It was awesome. Everyone was so nice to me. So, and even the people who were jokingly like, "Oh, that was so cringe," I was so confident that I didn't care. I just ate it up. I just loved the attention. You know what I mean? I was so used to not. Okay, this sounds pick me. I didn't get a lot of attention in high school, but that was also because I didn't put myself out there. You know what I mean? I purposely didn't get attention because I didn't want it. But this is my first time really getting any attention at school, and I ate it up. I loved it. It definitely went to my head, and that whole summer from May till August before I went to college, man, my ego probably tripled in size. And it was already fairly big, but, you know, I just was very insecure. But because that insecurity was gone now, it was just replaced with this, basically, you know, the name Seacum. Previously, my nickname was Spermy. My name's Chase Cumming, and people called me Spermy because I was quick and I was little and like like a sperm. It wasn't the best nickname. I wasn't a super big fan of it, but it was at least something to be acknowledged by. But this was me. This was basically me trying to be C-cum. Like, it's kind of cringe calling yourself a nickname, but that's really the best way to describe it. It was like I was being a different person. I embodied someone else. I was basically just acting, Like, no one knows if I'm actually that confident or not, but because I had gone so under the radar my whole life, not my whole life, but, the last few years before that, I basically had the opportunity to be whoever I wanted to be, and I played the part pretty well. Everyone saw me completely differently than they had, and that's basically what sparked the idea to start posting on social media. But I didn't do it until later that year. It actually took me getting pretty down about myself to start posting because, I was chasing that high I'd felt earlier in the year. When I went to college, I got pretty sad in some moments. But posting on social media was me trying to be that person I was again, like regain the confidence that I had gotten in myself. But that confidence was very hollow. You know what I mean? It wasn't real. It was inflated from everyone around me. But had I never been lifted up, I don't think I would have been able to lift myself up, if that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense. True confidence comes from within, and this was all external. You know what I mean? I'd spent the whole summer getting hyped up, so that way when I went to college, I not only wasn't being hyped up, I was kind of being pulled down. I definitely was around some people who loved to make me the butt of the joke, and it was good for me, honestly. After such a peak in confidence to be brought down a little bit, because I probably deserved it. I was probably a little cocky. But so I started posting on social media to try to chase it again, and I posted for quite a bit, and then I took a long break because I finally sat down and I stopped and thought to myself, like, why am I posting on social media? I started overthinking it because I was like, what am I doing this for? Why am I even posting? And then the following summer, I definitely had, it was like the reverse of the summer before, where I started out kind of insecure and my ego got super inflated. I went into the summer with the most inflated ego I've ever had. I was definitely around some people who were not the best people to be around, and I basically had my fall. Like, if 2022 was the rise, then 2023 was the fall, because I got my ego deflated so hard that by the end of the summer, I didn't even want to post anymore, because I realized not even posting on social media is going to make me feel better anymore. The one thing I had that was kind of inflating my ego, it wasn't working. And so I basically quit, and I always told myself maybe I'll do it again someday. But if I do, I actually need a plan. I need to start, I need a long-term goal. And that was what bodybuilding was. It was my long-term goal, where I was like, okay, if I do start posting again, it's on the basis that someday I actually am a bodybuilder. You know what I mean? Being an influencer was not the end goal. Being a bodybuilder was. So I thought everything out again, and I went into January with a plan, and I told myself, okay, in a few months, once I had a hammy injury, so once my legs are grown back again, I'm going to start documenting all my progress. I'm going to start doing all this stuff. And so I remember it was a random day. It was like the end of March, and I just randomly was walking to the gym, and I just decided, why don't I just start now? Like, what's the big deal? Like, yeah, my legs don't look super good, but also no one's watching. Like, who cares? And if anything, it's cool because you're going to be able to see my progress as, my strength and size come back. See comeback. I don't know what that was just now. But so I just started filming my lifts for like an entire month straight just to really force myself to lock in. And then I finally started posting again on social media. And there was a period, I think I started posting in May. And then 1 month later, I had a pretty viral video. It like got over 1 million views or something. And that was the spark I needed to keep going. I started getting thousands of views. I thought I was up next. I genuinely was like, wow, this is it. I'm him. I'm finally him. But then it plateaued pretty hard. And going into the school year, this current school year in August, my numbers had flatlined. And I was like, man, this sucks. But also, it was reassuring to know, okay, I can do it. I just need to be more consistent now. And so, obviously, you guys, if you've been following, you know what happened next. I started making all these not weird, but manifestation-like videos where I was manifesting things. I don't know how to describe it. I was just making these videos where I was making these sayings, and I was just in the car like I am right now, just talking to the camera about my goals and all this stuff. And man, you can crap on manifestation all you want, but it worked. There's no other way to describe it. Beginning of October to the end of October, it was insane. My entire life was changing in front of my eyes. It was just a crazy semester for a lot of reasons. I had some friends abroad. I wasn't seeing people as often. I was off campus now. I had my own room. It was just a very, very big shift. And, I think all of that change happening at once was maybe a little much. And I think that's maybe why I became so overwhelmed. And that's why, honestly, I look back at that period. And unfortunately, maybe someday I'll be able to look back with a little more, fondness. Fondness? That's the right word? Yep. I don't know why I was talking to someone else like someone else is in the car. But I don't look back at that time with super positive memories, which is weird because it was what I thought I wanted, It took me getting where I wanted to be to realize, oh, this isn't where I want to be, I became known as the meme guy, like the 5'4" meme guy. But after having so many people, oh my gosh, definitely over 100, maybe 200, I don't know. But on campus, it was spreading like wildfire. People were just approaching me. And that's just the people who are approaching me. I just assume even to this day that everyone, when I walk into my school gym, everyone has seen at least one of my videos, And if they've seen just one of them, then they've probably seen a few of them. You know what I mean? That's just my mentality. Maybe that's narcissistic, but I just kind of have to think that to myself now. I have to accept it. Sorry, I don't know if you just heard me sniff. But because I always thought if I do blow up, it'll be once I'm gone from college. That's part of the reason I started when I did. Just so that way by the time I graduated, I'll be, I won't have to deal with all that. I won't have to deal with seeing everyone who knows that I post, But I did. And I oddly felt kind of hollow. It was a hollow victory. I was like, wow, I have all these followers now and all this cool stuff, but I didn't know what to do with any of it. What's good with, what good comes from getting followers if you don't even know what you're doing? I understood what worked and what didn't, but the problem with understanding exactly what works and what doesn't is you kind of box yourself and you get afraid to do anything else, And I lost sight of my real goal, which is to be a bodybuilder. I guess I just accepted this is me now. I'm not even an influencer at this point. I'm just a meme, which is cool and all, but I started this to become a bodybuilder, and I was really losing that. I lost a lot of confidence, which it doesn't make sense, when you get all of the things you want, it should boost your confidence, but having so many eyes on me just amplified the stress even more. So when I look back at that time, it's not like I was unhappy. I was just so stressed, I felt boxed. I felt like I couldn't do anything. If anything, I thought posting online and then eventually doing a show. I thought the bodybuilding show is what would really, kick it into the next gear and all that. But to, only be known for being a meme, it wasn't as fun as I I thought it would be. It was a little defeating because I wanted people to see me as a bodybuilder, but I wasn't. I wasn't a bodybuilder, and that's why finally getting around to it. I don't even know who's listening at this point. I'm really just rambling into the mic. And also, sorry if I'm rambling a lot right now. This is the first time I've talked to the camera in a little bit like this. I was a little nervous to do this right now. I'm not gonna lie. I haven't been confident enough to do this again. I don't know what it is. I just have felt very insecure lately. Not with, my progress in the gym, but just being an influencer to me. I'm just afraid that I'm going to feel that hollow feeling I got before, it was so defeating. Anyways, that's enough depressing stuff. Wrapping it around now, I realized, how do I become a bodybuilder? How do I get people to finally see me as one instead of this 5'4" meme guy? I have to do a show. And so I've dedicated the last 2 months to really dialing in everything. I've been tracking all of my food for quite a bit now. Since August, I've been tracking everything down to a T. And in the last 2 months, I've started doing cardio every day. Even if I don't need to do cardio every day, I just want to build the habit now before I have to do a show prep. I'm looking into coaches right now. TNF is one of them I'm looking at right now. He's probably one of the only ones I even am aware of. But if you guys have suggestions for a coach, let me know. Just so much goes into a show, and I'm very nervous. But that's also why I'm doing this, because I want to be able to voice my thoughts in a healthy setting, I want to be able to verbalize what I'm thinking rather than just having it all bottled up in my head. So, yeah, that's what this is. It's going to be a mini... this is a podcast, but I also want it to be, in a way, a documentation of the experience of bodybuilding, because I've never done it. I've been living the lifestyle for quite some time now, but there's something... It's like playing a sport your whole life for fun versus playing a sport to actually compete at a high level. You know what I mean? It's different. It becomes more of a job. And I finally feel confident enough in myself with my progress and my lifestyle, my choices, everything. I feel like everything has lined up. And in a weird way, this is going to sound funny, but my numbers on Instagram have finally tapered off. I haven't been posting as many memes, and I got some brand deals and stuff, but something flipped, and I'm now not getting as many views and stuff. But in a weird way, it feels so freeing, because I don't care about being an influencer anymore. I don't care about the numbers. I don't care about, anything like that. All I want to do is compete. I don't care about the money. I don't care about, I don't care about anything at this point except for getting on stage and competing. I guess this is about to sound weird. I'm single, so I don't have to worry about any stress from any relationship right now either. I just feel like now is the perfect time in my life. Even with school, I graduate this May, so school may be a stressor, but at this point, I'm not stressing with school. I don't think my schedule is too bad, that would prevent me from doing this. So I think now is the time. I'm done being an influencer. I want to be a bodybuilder. I want people to see me as a bodybuilder. But yeah, no, I didn't really have too much of a plan for this podcast. I kind of just went in winging it. And if you're actually still listening, thank you. And also, why? No, I'm just kidding. I understand why. But, also meeting a bunch of people. Sorry, I'm itching my nose. Meeting a bunch of people who watch my videos has also weirdly made me more nervous to post, because when you're posting videos and no one's watching them, you feel a little more free to mess up and slowly improve. But when people start watching and you still don't know what you're doing and you don't have the confidence in yourself, or you don't have the... See, another thing I've been struggling with is networking. I need to make more just connections with people. And I'll say it now, but it was crazy the other day. Alex Eubanks DM'd me. I won't like show anything. He just said, "Keep it up, dog." And that's it. I genuinely thought he was hacked or something weird was going on, but he just messaged me out of the blue, and it was insane. And that's all I have to say about that. So shout out to him for that. It was something. But I want to bring more people onto this. You know, I just want to network. So if you want to be on the show, you know, DM me. I'll check my DMs. I can't respond to everyone, though. There's a lot of DMs. You know, a lot of randoms. And also with like workout programs and stuff, I don't want to do all that, at least until I've done a show. I don't have the confidence in myself to do that. I'm also pretty young as well. I turn 21 next month. So I feel like I have a lot of time to relax and not worry about the money and just focus more on the art and the show, you know. But anyways, I think that's all I had to say. Let me check my notes real quick. But yeah, my first step is to... Well, I already found a competition, so I guess my first step is to look into coaches. And then the next step is to adapt my workout plan, find a good workout plan that works for both of us, like me and the coach. And then eventually probably start a new diet, which is going to be a little tricky. I've been cutting out dairy for quite some time now for my skin. But I'm also at the point where even if it breaks me out a little bit, I'm fine. You know, I can handle it. I'm confident enough in myself. I'm also getting older. My hormones are changing, so it's not like it was gonna be before, where I was pretty insecure with my skin. If my skin breaks out, I can handle it. I can handle it. So that's another reason why I'm ready. That's another reason why I'm ready at the moment versus before. So yeah, thank you guys for listening. If you want to, I guess I should start plugging some stuff. Check out the Instagram. Everything is at Seacom Lifts, and then there's like a Seacom Clips page on TikTok you can go check out as well. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Code Seacom at Helamix Shakers and Breathe Divinity Clothing. Yeah, those are my two current sponsorships at the time. I don't even know if I can call them sponsorships. They're my affiliates. I'm the affiliate, I guess. But anyways, enough rambling. Thank you guys for watching. Seacom Squad out.